Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a job for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day.
Oh, welcome to Everything Old is New Again. The neighborhood has deteriorated because we are now your neighbors, not Mr. Rogers.
Good.
I'm here, Douglas Viviani, with the Mr. Cardigan himself, David Cohen.
Yes, it is a beautiful day in our little neighborhood.
It really is. We're celebrating in some ways Mr. Rogers, the Tom Hanks movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which in turn has inspired us to take a look at human-hosted children's shows. That's hard to say.
Human-hosted television. It is.
Thank
I can't
you.
say it. And you know why it's hard to say? Because it doesn't exist too much anymore, right? It doesn't.
It's nowhere. I don't see it anywhere. I don't know why.
You have kids, so you would know, right?
Yes.
You're plugged into all this.
And I'm kind of upset about it in some ways because these shows are and do hold a place in your hearts in some ways. They've affected your life, but they put a smile on your face when you was 5, 6, 7, even up to like 12, I would say, something like that, right?
Absolutely. And now, really, there's just none, huh?
I don't know. We're going to have to look at this and possibly see what the future is of this genre, which I think somewhere lies in the world of the past, meeting the present to kind of service the future. In other words, we've got Wheeler and Woosley. Might come on board.
Guys.
Yes, we'll talk about them in the third section.
Not Wheeler and Woosley.
Bad vaudeville comedians from the 1930s that were actually very popular back in the day.
But we're horrible.
Well, horrible. I think they would make great children's hosts to bring in the new breed of
And how
human
exactly
being.
would we resurrect them?
Well,
to
through
do
the
that?
power of radio, we would resurrect the spirits in some way of Wheeler and Woosley.
Somehow I believe this involves you and me.
Yes, and we will try to do that. Stay tuned for that in the third section of our show. But right now, I want to just look and refresh all of our memories a little bit about the power of and the wisdom of the great Mr. Rogers, if you will. In 1979, he received an Emmy, I guess a Lifetime Emmy. And further again in the Dartmouth College graduation speech, he used the power of silence, which I'm going to cut out the silence part of this, but the power of silence in his speech. And he was a pretty cool dude. If you really thought about what he was trying to do, it was very corny, and people can make fun of it as much as they like, but I think that it has a place.
All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? Those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. 10 seconds of silence. Whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made.
I mean, he was...
Did he actually ever do the 10 seconds?
He did. I cut it out. He did the 10 seconds, and at the Dartmouth speech, he did it for a minute. And he basically said, I'll time it. And he waited, because for television, he waited the 10 seconds. And that's great. I'm glad that I'm so prepared for the show here that I've got a telephone going off. That's nice.
Right in the middle of speaking about silence, yes.
Exactly. We can't get some silence these days. That's the problem. And in the Dartmouth speech, he did it for a minute. And a minute, you don't think is a long period of time.
It is a very long time.
And it really was powerful. People had tears, and people were thinking significantly about other people. And, you don't spend 1 minute sometimes in your day to reflect or to do something like that.
It's true.
And so it's such a simple idea. Everything he did was so simple, but so, I think you would say, in some ways, profound. Maybe that's too strong a word, but affecting upon others. And there was a day when, or the day after, that Kennedy was shot. Now, not John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy. Now, we're talking about a real problem for children to understand what's going on. He actually approached that on his show and tried to have and help kids to understand what happened with this assassination. Let's see what he tried to do.
What does assassination mean?
Have you heard that word a lot today?
Yes. And I didn't know what it meant.
It means somebody getting killed in a sort of surprise way.
That's what happened, you know. That man killed that other man.
I know, and a lot of people are talking about it right now.
Too many people are talking about it.
Now, what he's trying to get into, there's a whole discussion here he went into as the puppet and this girl, and later on he came back as Mr. Rogers to discuss it. And he was basically, later on when he was Mr. Rogers, he was talking to the parents. This is a special, a primetime special that aired, I guess, contemporaneous to the incident, of course.
Right.
And so he originally was talking to the children with the puppets. And we were talking about it blew up a balloon, and this puppet was asking what happens when the air goes out of the balloon, what happens when people lose their air. And, it was a way to help them understand that when you lose your air, you then go into the bigger section of air. In other words, you're going to heaven or whatever it might be. He had a nice way to describe it for the children to understand. But he also then later on said, listen, there's only so much our children can take. Let's not expose them to everything, that needs to be exposed, all this gunfire, all this assassination talk. Turn the TV channel, turn it off, go for a walk with your family, go to a church, whatever it might be that is your way of celebrating someone's life and or of getting over or mourning someone's passing. Involve your children, even if they're 5 years old or whatever it might be, involve them in it. It's important to have them discuss and not keep this inside and just act as if it never happened. But let's not expose our kids to all this stuff, which I think we're doing today too much, too soon, if that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, because there are so many different ways for kids to be exposed to it. Back then, it was just television, right, and word of mouth. But now, I mean, come on, there's a million different ways that kids are exposed to this kind of stuff. It's almost like you can't stop it.
Right. And I'm not one for censorship at all. But, on the other hand, as an adult, you need to censor what your children are exposed to. They're not adult minds yet.
Right.
So, we're talking about...
Some adult minds are not even adult minds yet.
Exactly. But with an adult mind, you would think the best defense against a bad idea is another idea, and adults could consider with an open mind different points of view and at least, a discussion or a thought in their mind, although there are lots of adults that don't have that. But the point is, with a child, they don't have that ability.
Of course. Right.
And we're, sometimes just throwing the TV on, and you don't know what the heck's on TV, and is or on the apps or the
giving
games.
them iPads. And what they're exposed to is just, you can't filter it.
And the kids are a lot smarter than you think they are. And he was pretty sharp in that regard to kind of get you on board with that thought. So anyway, that's that's a little piece of our Mr. Rogers discussion. When we continue, I want to talk a little bit about what else we enjoyed as kids, and something called Winky Dink. Do you remember that?
Winky Dink. Yes.
How about the Friendly Giant? Remember the Friendly Giant? No, I'll bring that one. Try to get that one. And
not the Green Giant.
No, it's what the Green Giant was inspired by.
I see.
We have that. But we're going to talk and have some fun with adult, human-hosted television shows for kids.
Which you can't say fast.
No, you can't say it fast. That's why I'm setting it up. Before we get there, why, we talked about this before, do you think there is no way then, forget the adult, is there no way to communicate with kids on television other than these cartoons that are on? There is no real adult talking to kids on television.
Right.
And is that the reason why there are no adults that I see sometimes talking to kids that are not their own kids at all?
No, I don't know if I would make that leap there, but like I mentioned before, I think it's just about they're not making those shows because they don't think that they can compete in the kind of reality the kids are growing up with right now.
Yeah, but kids turning on cartoons, like straight cartoons.
Because those are doing well, and the I don't know, the craziness, the zaniness, the colors, the sounds, the lights. There's too much.
You don't think
right now.
like a bozo? I mean, clowns are out now, but a bozo, the type kind of a guy that had all this energy. Maybe he's a superhero that comes on board as a human superhero and has his own type of Avengers group, and you're part of it, and you're in the studio audience, and you get the flashing lights, and they play apps and play video games and whatever, but do it in a way that teaches lessons.
Look, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on in that industry. Sesame Street is the only show that sort of comes close to what you're talking about.
Right.
But there's got to be a reason why they're not doing it. They probably don't think they're going to be successful because kids are just, they have attention spans of 5 seconds because of all the different media outlets and ways of accessing content. That just having a simple Mr. Rogers looking into the camera and talking to kids, I'm sure the TV producers are just, they don't want to go there because it's too dangerous. They don't think it's going to work.
I think it's a mistake. I think we need to slow down at some point.
Oh, I agree with you.
But, we'll be back right after this. Everything old is new again. Speed up.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Winky dink, and you winky dink, and me always have a lot of fun together. Winky dink, and you winky dink, and me, we are pals in fair or stormy weather.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani with the ever-present David Cohen. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing well as Winky Dink is doing with a little help from his friends.
How does anybody remember that? That was I found that theme in preparation for this show. I hadn't thought about it since probably 1969, and I knew every word. It was incredible because, that was a show that was on in 53 to 57, and then they revived it in 69 to 73, which is when I think, of course, we
started watching it.
And I have to give you a little smidge here to let you, because the description is better by these people that wrote this article.
Yeah, sure.
The central gimmick of the show, which, by the way, was praised by Bill Gates. Bill Gates says it was the first interactive television show.
That's probably right.
Which is true. And the gimmick was to use a magic drawing screen, which basically was just a piece of vinyl plastic that stuck to your television screen that you could see through, of course. And it stuck there via static electricity, because these were different screens than we have now, right? The kit and then you would buy this kit. It contained the screen, various Winky Dink crayons that could be purchased in addition afterwards for 50 cents, a scene in each of the Winky Dink shows, or a number of them, would arrive.
Which was an animated show.
Right. It was a boy and his dog, basically, a nutty dog. You would either connect the dots on the screen itself, or they would ask you to draw something to help Winky Dink or a buddy of his get out of a problem.
Yes.
So if, let's just say you would draw something on the screen, they would leave you room to do the drawing, and then you would pull back and your drawing would be there, and you'd see your animal or whatever it was on the screen, and they would interact with it in some way.
Yeah, like if a door had to be opened, right, on the TV, they would start showing this dotted line, someone on the TV drawing the outline of a door, and you would take your Winky Dink marker on your magic screen on your TV and follow the outline on your TV screen. And then the door would swing open, and then Winky Dink could get out of the problem, out of the situation.
Or other ways, sometimes they did the dots, but not always. Sometimes they say, just draw this, whatever it is.
Freehand, yeah.
And they would interact with it, or would jump on it. The characters they'd leave it a certain space. They'd tell you exactly where to draw this, and then the characters would just jump on your horse or whatever it was.
That's really
and
cool.
ride on your horse.
That was a great idea.
Yeah, I think it was really very cool. I thought it was one of the most memorable shows I saw as a kid. Did you have a Winky Dink set?
I did not, but there were stories where they had issues with this because the kids would draw right on the TV screen without having that magic screen, and it would ruin the TV screen, or at least parents would have a lot of trouble erasing the marked up TV screen. As a result.
I tried as a kid a piece of wax paper, which you kind of can see through, but not too much, and drew on that.
Did it work?
It did work. It wasn't terrible. It was okay, but it was, of course, you couldn't see the cartoon too well. So then I tried cellophane. It did not work
because it moved around. You can't draw on cellophane.
That was horrible.
Right.
So I kept on begging for that. I never got the kit.
Why didn't your parents get it for you?
I don't know, man. Why wouldn't they?
That's a whole other show.
I mean, yeah. I mean, our kid, it's another thing. Our kids ask us for, whatever, and 3 minutes later, it's on your doorstep from Amazon.
I always got the question, like in this instance, right? Like, Mom, Dad, can I get a Winky Dink screen? Why? Well, because what are you going to use it for?
I want to watch the TV show.
You're going to use it once and you're never going to open it again. You're never going to use it again. And I had no argument because they were probably right. So I never got stuff because I couldn't answer those questions.
In today's world,
why? What do you want? What do you want a toy? Like, what kind of question is that?
What are you going to do with that Fantastic Four figurine?
I'm going to play with it. Yeah, you'll play with it once and
put it on the shelf.
Right.
You'll lose all the pieces. You're not getting that. Remember that one with the cage and everything? What was that? The Mousetrap? You're not getting Mousetrap. Why not? Because it has 17 moving parts. You're going to lose the parts. Well, you lose one, you can't use the game anymore. You know the one I'm talking about with the cage?
Yes.
All right, let's listen to actually Winky Dink try to teach you how to draw something to get him out of this spot.
Boys and girls, take your magic crayon and draw that octopus on your magic screen. Draw his head and all his 8 legs. That's it. You're doing fine. Now, let's hope the whale is hungry. Great. Here's the octopus now. I'll ride him like a bronco. Giddy up there, octopus. Okay, boys and girls, erase your drawing with your magic cloth. Rub it all off. That's the way.
So that's kind of a host. Sometimes, I saw in the early ones, in the 50s, they had a host with a TV set, and so it was like a TV inside of a TV.
Oh, so they would show you how to do it.
Yeah, and then he'd back off and the show would happen, so they sort of taught you how to do it. Anyway, so...
It was, I mean, if you think about it, at the time, it was really far ahead of it.
So why don't we do something like this? Let me back up. With all these apps and everything, you can get on the computer or your phone or your laptop or whatever, your tablet, and you can have, make it up now, Bugs Bunny or a Winky Dink type, and you don't need all that malarkey. You could draw with your finger with a certain app.
It's probably stuff like that, and we just don't know.
Get them out of this problem and all that.
There's got to be stuff like that.
I'll have to look into that. I mean, what a great idea! If not, it's a good idea.
It is a great idea. If it's not out there, I think we might be onto something.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about it anymore because someone will steal our idea for an app.
Yes. Next topic. Quickly. Next topic.
I think it's a great idea. I think kids would love to watch a cartoon for 15 minutes and draw your hero out of problems for every 3 minutes or every 5 minutes.
Could you imagine blowing $1,000 on one of these big LCD screens, this 50-inch thing, and your kid is up there with a magic marker drawn on it? No.
No, I think in this day and age, you can just use your finger and you can color on the screen.
Yeah.
You're not getting me. Okay. How about something called, remember this one? And again, I'm just trying to show you how many different ideas there were when we were growing up that don't exist. The 15-minute show, The Friendly Giant. You'd have this huge guy, and he would set up like a little area for you to sit down at the table, and all these little furniture pieces and a fireplace, like a mini set. And then he would talk to you and he'd say, "Okay, now that you're all set up, look up, way up, look at me." And the camera would go from the ground up, looking at this guy, and he would be standing there in a big giant outfit, like what you would picture a giant wearing, with a crazy collar with the triangles on it and whatever. And then a moose would come over and stick its head in the window and talk to this guy. Was it a moose or a rooster? I'm sorry. He had a rooster and a giraffe.
It really sounds like you're making that up.
And the rooster and giraffe would interact and talk with him, and you're like one of the little people looking at this happening, and at the end of the show, the camera would go way back down to where you allegedly was sitting, and he would, set the table up for you to leave.
You sure this wasn't during your teen years when you were kind of strung out, living in the streets?
No, this is the
smoking funny cigarettes.
The Friendly Giant.
One little chair for one of you and a bigger chair for 2 more. Someone who likes to rock, a rocking chair. There. Now, look up. Way up. And I'll call Rusty. Rusty?
Hi.
Hi, Rusty.
Hi, Friendly.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you today?
Good.
Another one of these ventriloquist guys. All of these kids shows have these puppets, which was so cool. Like, I don't know, they all had it all in common. There were literally 3,000 episodes of this show, The Friendly Giant, created by Bob Home. It originally was from Wisconsin and then went to Canada and was broadcast on, all those all the stations.
It's weird. I remember so many kid shows. I don't remember that.
It was on. Yeah, it was just. Maybe I'll show you this. Do you remember? Does that look good? I'm showing you the castle, a really horrible looking, low budget castle.
I'll look for it on YouTube. Maybe,
you'll get a kick out of it.
Maybe
just different cool ideas that kids would get into. Also, we had on as a friend of the show, Jeff Stein, and he's from Iowa, and he's an author of 5 books, 3 on Iowa broadcasting. But the book that he was talking about on our show was The Floppy Show. It's the name of the book, and of course, that's a children's show that was hosted by a guy named Dwayne Ellett, Ellett. How do you pronounce that?
You're probably right.
Okay. 1957 to 1987, of course, for 30 years, he had this beagle, a high-pitched
but just
dog.
locally. It was just
one of these local.
Right.
And if you looked up on an app, you said there was endless local children hosts that you could look up on an app and see all these different shows that existed. But now think about this. How do I describe this? These shows were not syndicated, so to get a star would be almost impossible. But they did. Back in the day, they were able to get stars on their show.
Into these smaller markets.
Yeah, and they had Adam West on this show interacting with these two.
Thank you, Dwayne. I want to tell you before I leave, if I may, how much Robin and Alfred and I have enjoyed your show in the Bat Cave.
Yes.
In the afternoons, we normally take that time to dust the Bat computers. And it's nice to see you kids again, too.
Robin was here a year ago on this very program.
Yes, he told me about it for weeks.
And he said that you were kind of bossy at times.
I don't think there's any truth in that.
There you go. Some great living.
Nice laugh. Wow, that kind of popped right out of my right ear.
It'll wake you up. So that was what kids in Iowa experienced. And just as a kick, if you want to, there's a great book on this. Floppy was a dog. And I don't know, if you want to take a look at it, The Floppy Show, go to Amazon.com. You'll see The Floppy Show.
How
by
was
Jeff
it
Stein.
if it was a local show that Batman and Robin and Alfred would spend an afternoon in the Batcave while apparently dusting the Bat computer and have on in the background in the TV show Floppy? How were they able to actually get access
who knows
to that
where
show?
Gotham is? No one knows really where Gotham is. It could be Des Moines for all we know.
I doubt it.
It could have been.
But, that
For a
Bat
kid.
computer, maybe they ran it through the Bat computer, which was very sophisticated and was able to pick up local TV broadcasts.
Important stuff that we're discussing here on Everything Old. Do again. We'll be right back, right after this.
Don't start me down the rabbit hole there. I'll go with
and you. Winky Dink and me always have a lot of fun together. Winky Dink and you, Winky Dink and me, we are pals in fair or stormy weather. Winky Dink and me always have a lot of fun together. Winky Dink.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything old is new again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The Marx Brothers are lionized today, but they had very few box office hits back in the 1930s, when their humor, like Field's, was thought to be too sophisticated. Instead, moviegoers flocked to the films of fellow Broadway stars Burt Wheeler and Robert Woolsey. Woolsey, the one with the cigar, was the fast talker of the pair. Wheeler, with the baby face, was the innocent, who also sang on occasion and dabbled in romantic interludes. The team hit their stride in the mid-1930s with the nonsense classic Diplomaniacs, in which they played barbers on an Indian reservation who were sent to the Geneva Peace Conference and bid farewell in Pig Latin.
Would gay I may, and peace for all is our cry.
Wheeler and Woolsey made their last film together in 1938. But these forgotten comics are still there on film, waiting like Joey Brown to entertain a new generation of audiences who are beginning to rediscover them and find that they can still tickle a funny bone more than 50 years later.
Oh, welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. You've entered the Twilight Zone.
Who's waiting to rediscover them?
We are just fascinated by this duo from the 1930s, Wheeler and Woosley.
An actual comedy duo, yeah.
Yes, who apparently were very popular during the Depression. And in fact, the word is that they were more popular than W.C. Fields and the Marx Brothers because the W.C. Fields and Marx Brothers comedy was too cerebral, allegedly. That's what was said. And so it resulted to now these guys like how are you so popular that all these years later people know the Marx Brothers, they know all the other comedians of the era, but not them
at all.
And
I mean, those are
movies.
such foreign names. No one I know, living or probably dead,
right,
remembers these guys.
I just would love to pick my grandfather's brain, and who was 30 at those in that era, and
see if he remembers.
Remember these guys? Did they help you through the Depression or not? What was it all about? And the other thing is, I think, in this day and age, it's time to resurrect Wheeler and Woosley. I think they would make good hosts of a children's show because their jokes are so bad, but they're kind of like dad jokes, like they would work for a 6-year-old kid.
Yeah, it could.
Let's just listen to a few minutes of a routine they did. Let's see how long this is. 30 seconds. A routine they did, a part of a routine they did for the 1933 World's Fair. So we get a flavor for Burt Wheeler and Robert Woolsey. Woolsey. I can never pronounce his name even.
You think he would have changed his name to make it easier to pronounce.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Also, right?
All right, we'll be back.
This way for the thrill of our time. Step lively.
Hey, Bert, we'll have to hurry and see the whole fair today. It's only going to be here 2 more days.
You're crazy. The fair just opened. What makes you think it's only going to be here 2 more days?
Well, look at this newspaper. It says right in the corner, fair today and fair tomorrow.
That's the weather, you sap. Say, will you look at that mob?
Yeah, it's so crowded here, a woman fainted this morning, and she had to walk 2 miles before she could fall down.
You know what makes it so crowded?
What?
People.
These jokes are almost funny.
Almost.
Like they have good setups, but the punchlines are just
they
flat.
just fall a little short.
So those are the guys. But they might translate.
And by the way, we've heard the entire clip.
Yes.
Those were the best jokes.
Yes, it went downhill.
By far, those were the best.
And I have one other joke here. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes they do jokes and you can't relate to what the heck is the punchline. What are they saying? They talk about something here called witch hazel.
Witch hazel.
Oh, you've heard of it?
You've never heard of witch hazel?
Never heard of it.
We're doing a bit now. Witch hazel, it's like rubbing alcohol.
Witch hazel is
witch
that?
Hazel. It's a thing. It's an actual thing.
Which one?
What?
Hazel?
Yeah. Okay. All right, Bert. But no, you put witch hazel on. I think
to do what?
It's like a salve. It's like to make your muscles feel better. They used it for colds. It's a thing. You can buy it at a store. Actually.
Back in the day, it was taken by mouth for diarrhea, for vomiting blood, for coughing up blood, for tuberculosis,
I was a little wrong. But
for colds, for fevers, for tumors, and for cancer.
But the point is, you can still buy it today. Witch hazel.
Okay. It's probably
so now that you understand what witch hazel is.
So now here's the joke. See, if maybe it's funnier now that I.
How did you understand?
I understand
the premise.
I couldn't figure it out. All right, let's see let's just go with this. Let's see.
Wheeler and Woolsey were a vaudeville
No, that's
duo
not it.
with
We know they were from Broadway, vaudeville. Where's the witch hazel? Give me the witch hazel. Maybe this is it.
Witch hazel.
Yeah.
Not witch hazel.
Wheeler and Woolsey were a vaudeville duo with
That's
a
the
simple
same
dialogue
I know, but I think the joke's
and a
here.
penchant for wheezy dialogue that only a mother could love.
How would you each like $1 million?
Well, I don't know whether you can get Willie that cheap or not. You see, Willie here has scruples.
No, I haven't. Not since I used witch hazel.
So what? He lost his scruples by taking witch hazel.
No, I still don't understand.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. He has no scruples
because he what? He took.
You want to hear?
hazel?
He took the witch hazel. This is just pretty bad that we have to examine this, but let's see.
Let's hear it again.
How would you each like $1 million?
Well, I don't know whether you can get Willie that cheap or not. You see, Willie here has scruples.
No, I haven't. Not since I used witch hazel.
That must have been something very specific to the time.
Well, witch hazel got him to. He gets rid of everything, I guess. So witch hazel probably back in the day, like you saw the list I gave you.
Yeah.
So witch hazel gets rid of almost everything, including cancer. So it got rid of his scruples. He has no scruples anymore.
The medicine got rid of his scruples.
Right. So now he'll take the $1 million.
That's the joke. Okay. So in other words, like today would be I took whatever Advil or something. Got rid of my
Radiation poison. Whatever.
It was just a bad joke,
Yeah,
no matter how you try to.
Exactly.
slice
So,
it up.
wow. So these are the. Let's just try it. Let's have Wheeler and Woolsey audition to be the new Everything Old is New Again human hosts of a children's program.
So they're coming in,
right,
and they're just going to go right into the sketch that they're recommending. Would be the first sketch on their new children's TV show.
Exactly.
All right.
Now, who's going to start this? I guess you're Wheeler, I'm Woolsey.
Okay, so Woolsey.
Woolsey.
So, it's all going to sound the same anyway. It doesn't matter who's who. With two characters.
All right, so go ahead.
Based
you start
on Wheeler and Woolsey.
Here we go.
Okay. Say, I hate going to funerals. It's so depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, so sad your father died.
Yeah, how well. Yeah, did you see him in a coffin?
He looks pretty good.
Yeah, actually looks better now than he did when he was alive. Hey, remember you were playing that app on your phone before we got here? What was that?
Yeah, playing Angry Birds.
Angry Birds. That was a fun game. Can you show that to me?
Yeah, here you go. Here we
excuse me. Oh, here comes the Reverend.
Yes, Reverend. Can I help you?
Yes, gentlemen. There's no use of electronic devices during the funeral services. Can you kindly put those away?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, put it away.
Hey, what are you putting it away for? Are you going to listen to him?
Well, he's the Reverend.
Reverend of what? You're a grown man. You could do what you want.
Well, he's a friend of God.
Who's he? Who are you? You're a grown man.
I'm Woolsey.
Woolsey could do anything that Woolsey wants to do. Play the app.
Right.
Show it to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, you got the birds.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah,
that's pretty. Gentlemen, I explained to you that no electronic devices are allowed. I'm going to have to ask you two to leave.
Say, why? What? Oh,
now let's just go. Oh, God, how humiliating. Getting thrown out of a funeral. This is terrible.
Yeah, we're standing here right in the middle of a cemetery.
I love cemeteries.
Well, why is that?
Well, everybody's dying to get in.
But I'm bummed. And there you go. There is the first incarnation of the Everything Old is New Again, Wheeler and Woosley's Kids Comedy Hour.
Yeah, so it had everything I think a kid show needs. It has, first of all, death is a main part of the death of a relative,
yes,
which is always a good
being
kid
nice
theme.
and sensitive for that.
That you're actually looking at the dead person in the coffin and making fun of the dead person in the coffin.
Giving some bad advice about playing video games.
Inappropriate use of video games. Having an authoritative figure actually expelling you from the premises.
Well, not listening to the authoritative figure, that, of course, was...
Exactly. Right. Right. Oh, boy, that's bad, right? No, Don't listen to authority. That's a terrible lesson. And then getting kicked out, and then just, whatever, just going out in some lame,
but I love the bad
joke.
Yeah, the bad jokes. Maybe the kids would like those jokes, though. You got to be kidding me if you don't think that Wheeler and Woosley will be the perfect human hosts for a television show for kids today in 2000, let's say 20.
It could work. I think it could work.
Not
to pat ourselves on the back too much, but Doug and I took literally, maybe 3 minutes before we went on the air and just came out with that general sketch.
Yes.
So I
think about what we could do in 3 hours. We could do a whole season. We could 365 shows in 3 hours.
Oh, maybe. All right. Maybe I'm not patting ourselves on the back too much. That's, not a good thing.
But it actually sounds good, though. It only took 3 minutes. But if we did it for 3 hours...
we could have so many more bad jokes.
Right, exactly.
And inappropriate behavior.
But you heard them. That's their specialty of these bad jokes.
Yeah.
I think kids like bad jokes.
I mean, we kind of stole the cemetery everybody's down to get in. That's an old joke. Well, but the others we made up, man.
Number one. Number two, Wheeler and Woosley, all they did was steal jokes from vaudeville.
Did they?
Yeah.
They stole
O'Reilly, O'Reilly, or they do that.
Right.
We've heard all this.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't imagine. Some of the jokes were so bad that they actually stole them. They were so bad. The first thought in my mind, when you were listening to them, were you saying, "Oh, I got to use that one"? No, of course not.
I have to avoid. All right. Well, there's. I have to tell you, I'm not letting this go. Wheeler and Woosley will reappear on our show.
So, in other words,
again, but you got to tell us if you like it or not. Everything Old is New Again .biz or oldnewagain@AOL.com. Oldnewagain@AOL.com. We'll be back right after this on Everything Old is New Again.
We may be young and not full grown, but we have problems of our own.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
It's the part of you that no one can see, but you know it's there, and I do too. That's the part of you that no one can take away. Because that's the part of you that's really you. You see, the stuff I like about you isn't the stuff on the outside. What I like about you is the other stuff. The inside stuff.
You are not a real person. You are a man in the box. Trusted brand. No one sees a man.
I feel something new today. Something's growing inside me.
All right, we're back, and Everything Old is New Again here, talking for our last section about our Mr. Rogers-inspired two first shows, last week and this week, concerning adult-hosted children's shows. Now, that is a clip, second season already starting, of Jim Carrey's Kidding, which is on Sunday nights at 10 o'clock on Showtime. Now, I've tried to get them on the show, and so I don't have to be nice to them because they keep turning us down. But I don't blame them. But on some level, that seems like a creepy Mr. Rogers.
And
no?
Is that the premise of the show?
Yes, he's Mr. Pickles' puppet time, and he's a Mr. Rogers, but he's supposed to be very naive. He's gone through a divorce. He's having a lot of personal problems, and on screen he's like $115 million industry, and so they're telling him you've got to stay that character on screen. Whatever happens off screen, no one cares about you as a person. We don't care about you as a person. So he's going through therapy and he's freaking out. And inside, I think eventually he's going to boil over into the show.
So he's going to become Krusty the Clown, in other words.
I'm guessing. I've never even seen the show, but it is inspired certainly by a thought of, it sounds like a Mr. Rogers imitation, doesn't it? Like creepy.
Yeah.
Like if Mr. Rogers went wrong, and that's what the premise of that show is. So I think it's pretty interesting. Speaking of going wrong, I still think Wheeler and Woosley might be along the lines of this. I think they would be beautiful as children's hosts.
And that just to pat ourselves on the back a little bit here. So Doug and I took about, what would you say? 3 minutes before we actually aired that sketch, just to kind of think about what we were going to do and what we were going to say.
Well, to be fair, there was another 3 minutes where we actually listened to the World's Fair tape in full of Wheeler and Woosley.
Yeah, just to get an idea.
Who they are. Yeah.
Just to get an idea, but we threw that together very, very last minute.
Yeah.
And I think the only joke that we didn't come up with that we kind of stole was the old joke about the cemetery. Everybody's dying to get in. But other than that, I think it worked. It's too bad.
We could be the new Wheeler and Woosley.
Now, think about that. That took us 3 minutes, right?
Right.
Think about
what would happen if we had 3 hours.
Yeah.
To plan.
Well, maybe it wouldn't be too good, actually.
Sure, why not? We'd have plenty of time to go a ton of really bad jokes. It wouldn't be hard for us to do.
Let's do it. I'm in. So a whole episode, possibly, of the Wheeler and Woosley. Now I'm saying it wrong. a whole Everything Old is New Again episode of Wheeler and Woolsey Kid Show.
Yes. No,
or at least
a segment, and then another segment we could do of them like in a pitching or being a part of a film, and maybe we could have Pumpkinhead coming on board and Balzac saying they want to be part of.
I see. Okay,
this whole scenario.
Let's do it
somehow. If we could work in those two with maybe Holmes and Watson, if we could do all 6 characters at once, that would be a pièce de résistance.
For who?
I don't know. It would be.
Well, maybe if listeners would let us know whether they'd like to hear more of our version of Woolsey and his pal.
Yes, Wheeler and Woolsey.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you. EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz. It's EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz. And or send us a note directly, oldnewagain@AOL.com. That's oldnewagain@AOL.com. Let us know if we're on the right path or the wrong path. I am personally obsessed at this point now with Wheeler and Woolsey, and I've gone online. I've bought 3 books already that haven't received them yet
about them,
and
wow.
The one book is like all their 20 movies broken down.
Well, I was telling you off the air that when you were telling me about this slightly unhealthy obsession you have, it's fascinating to me that no one has done the story of them, because it's really a remarkable story about this incredible fame that these people had in history, but no one remembers it.
Yeah.
No one.
And is it a function of the depression, like where people like, so, you know, I mean, it was a really tough time.
Right.
Was it not something that, I mean, I'm sure it was a bright spot in their life, but maybe not a lot of people saw them because who had money to go to the movies? Or maybe was it a time of their life that people want to forget and they don't talk about
That's
it? I don't know.
Right,
right. It's just, all of that is subject to a great movie, I think.
We should ask our parents and grandparents if they remember them.
Yes.
If anybody out there listening remembers them or knows someone who would know their names, let us know.
Maybe I'll go on Facebook too and all of our social media and just shoot it out there. Maybe someone could send us a note.
Let's help Doug get over this obsession. Please help us.
Speaking of obsessions with feelings and emotions, we'll go back full circle to bookmark our feature here on Mr. Rogers. Here's a little piece of a poem that Mr. Rogers presented again at the at Congress to get funding for his show and for all of public television in 1969.
What do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad you could bite? When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong and nothing you do seems very right. It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead and think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a lady, and a boy can be someday a man.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.
There you go.
Again? He earned it again?
I clipped it in the last one. It was a long clip, so the last show.
But that's when the guy said it.
Yes, but it was in both of those, last show and this show, both were part of the presentation, but it was long, so I figured I'd cut it up. Now, here's the thing. He has that temperament that I don't have, and I think if I could have to blame it on something, is my Italian heritage or something like that they call it the Latin blood or whatever. I can get very emotional and very highs and lows sometimes. You know, somebody get me upset.
You're a hothead?
I could rip my shirt off. So twice a year, I literally rip my shirt off. Yeah, sometimes it just happens. It might be because I'm a lawyer and the pressure. I don't know what. But you seem to have the exact opposite. You have what I admire, that at least I know Mr. Rogers had, is this temperament where you could do what he did in this poem and actually think before you rip that shirt off and say, let me take a breath. Let me relax for a minute. Let me think about this. You know, how do you do that?
Well, I mean, for a time in my life, I was more, I think, like you at certain points. Where things would, especially when I was driving.
Oh, you used to have the
really
road rage?
lose it. I'd have real road rage. But not so much anymore. I don't know. I worked on it. I just decided that it's just not worth it.
Right. I'm
Take a
at
deep
the
breath
point for a long time, and I'm trying to teach that with my kids. And I'm doing it less and less. And of course, you avoid those circumstances that make you so upset too. But you can't get so upset about everything, and that's what he's saying. What an amazing lesson! What a simple, amazing lesson to just say, I don't have to do that. Let me take a breath and relax. Like your mind can control over that. I mean, I don't know if it's always true for everybody's circumstance, but again, he really had a way to tap into stuff that no one else really talked about, and was able to at least throw it out there. And you'll go on YouTube anywhere, you'll see wherever he used to go, people would always just walk up to him and just thank him for whatever it was.
It's amazing.
I mean, what a life this guy left.
Yeah, and we'd recommend that documentary again about him. It's really, I think it's important to see.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he was just someone special who we'd love to still have with us.
Yeah, somebody to admire, and although, you know, it's almost like a guilty, what do you call that? A guilty pleasure, where you don't talk about Mr. Rogers with anybody really. Hey, did you see that episode? Hey, I'm showing my kids the episode where they did, whatever, saw the Cardinals learning to feed their young, but you saw it. And if you did mention it to someone, they said, no, I didn't see that one, but I saw the other one where, whatever, they had Lou Ferrigno on talking about the Hulk and whatever. All of those are on in my research. I've seen all of those. So, of course, only because of research did I actually
that you can actually look for it. Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to introducing Leo, my 7-year-old. I think he might have her get a kick. I don't know. Let's
But that would
see
be
if
interesting
today's
to see.
world
Yeah.
if it doesn't work for a child now.
And that's obviously a small sample, but try it.
Right.
I'd like to see what his
I'd like to
reaction is.
see what he's pretty go with it kind of a guy. He watch a movie once in a while, and Angelica wouldn't watch it, but he will. So we call them Leo movies. He has more temperance, he'll wait, and listen and watch the movie and
Give it a
see what's
chance.
happening with it. And Angelica's like 3 seconds in, I like it, I don't like it. You know, like I don't know. That's the greatest thing in the world. I like to sit back and give yourself a little time.
Right.
So,
Agreed.
All right, we'll be back next week talking all things America's pop culture. We're having a great time, and everything old to do again with you. Please, if you like our show, go to the website and let us know. Go to YouTube. Go to your local station. Tell them everything old is new again. It's all right, man. It's all right. We'll be back next week. By the way, kids, your people.
Yeah.